Welcome to the cube. Your first task: procure the cube. There it is. This is a mod that caught my attention, where quite a while back at this point I've streamed through other large mods like Angel Bob, C Block, a little bit of Revolution, and a lot of the big mods go in the same direction those do, of adding more stuff and more relationships between that stuff to manage. Take every step of the process and make it more convoluted. This caught my eye because, fundamentally, Cube mostly goes the other direction. Many parts of the game are heavily streamlined by way of the cube. We begin with a set of construction bots, a basic little solar power suit with a roboport for convenience, one synthesizer, one fabricator, one cube. There is only one cube. So, because we are holding the cube, we can extrude generic matter bars at a rate of 100 per cycle. This is the power of the cube. We can also use the cube to assemble our basic research unit. Though that must be done in the machine. Which, for the beginning, yes, so as another nice convenience thing for like the floor, this is ULTRACUBE. And I think I don't have any other secondary mods activated. This is core cube technology. So we have these backup wind turbines for our basic power supply, with their deal being that they do not interface with the power grid. They can provide power to their immediate surroundings and nothing else. If I were to say, take my initial synthesizer, slap that on the ground, well, okay, set it to matter extrusion first. Then install the cube. The machine is now operating very slowly for want of power. But it is, hold on, no, not water pump, not at the moment. The cube is at work. Yes, these have their very basic little aura there. Just the 2-tile reach, and they are themselves 2 tiles wide. So in turn, you could have at most 1 layer of these wrapped around a building, providing it power. So for large things like this, you'd prefer to have your proper steam power or what have you set up going on to really get them going. But for other little things like load-bearing inserters or like powered water pumps, these are perfect for just making sure that those bits of infrastructure will always be operating they're a handy little device. Anyway, I'm going to... Once the cube has finished cycling, I will extract that. Put it to use on something else. We can extrude basic matter in our pockets much faster. But so as well with the start of the material supply just being creating matter from nothing using the cube. Resources from the map are much simpler. There's just like rock and fancy rock and maybe a third metal somewhere. Wood still exists. Coal exists, and it's like something you can extract from other things. And another convenient thing, so the tech tree is initially mostly obscured and gradually reveals itself as you finish researching things. I guess queue up arms first, since those are important to allow for automated cube handling. That just being the heart of the mod, that now the cube is extremely powerful, but it is unique, it is singular. So all of your major design problems are about how best to allocate the cube and efficiently transport the cube from machine to machine. So there's a lot of incentive to, instead of just like finding a one tileable footprint that works and copy pasting it out a lot, which is satisfying for its own reasons. But here, instead of that, there's much more reason to like use circuit wire and combinators to create a smart factory that can recognize where the cube is destined to reside at the moment. Also, there's that. Every second, the cube will emit a small explosion to remind you that it is present. And there's like a permanent alert attached to the current location of the cube. The cube knows where it is. And you must know where the cube is. 33% should have synthesized more windmills before setting this down. It's fine though. The cube moves at its own pace. It's a nice, relaxed process. So I figure, like, get enough wind turbines to engulf this basic synthesizer, because that's also how I get my initial science. A lot of that will be reusable for other things in a moment. Do that. I don't have... No, I do have steam turbine. So I could create steam engine as well, but I figure it's at first... Yeah, first the basic free power. And from that, set up laboratory. And use that to process the cube. Also, from a basic level, filter arms are much more important out of the gate, because you need machines that can recognize what is or is not the cube and move it accordingly. Yeah, so basic power, tiny laboratory to get started. And then probably just use this pond to get my initial steam setup going. Maybe that pond. A little bit of rock, there's a little bit of rare earth in the immediate vicinity. Yeah, I might move over there to get started. I've already sampled this up to the second tier of science object. These basic recipes of simply invoke the mercy of the cube and receive its bounty. That is only the beginning. There are such sites. Actually, how many of those are like visible on the tech tree yet? So we've got arms. The electric furnace here is just like its normal self. For now, it just makes brick. Yeah, basic conveyors. Yellow conveyor is skipped. Move directly to red conveyor. Cube is about volume. Mining drill is what it is only made of basic matter. There's not a reason to use walls. This land is peaceful. Its inhabitants cube. And then the other furnace. The high density furnace. Which uses the high density fuel.
Beep.
And so, yes, the primary axis of advancement is that new recipes will emerge that allow for increased efficiency in the use of the cube. More advanced forms of cube alchemy, creating various catalysts and reagents. Magnify the output. Orbs do fit within a cube. Cube can contain many spheres. And yes, keep in mind that this is happening at the speed it is because that machine is nominally rated for 50 megawatts, and it is currently receiving 80 kilowatts. This synthesizer, once I have enough infrastructure to feed it at full power, could cycle the cube in a second, releasing hundreds of generic matter cylinders in the process. I'll get it up to a slightly better fraction of its output. I suppose I could, like, eyeball out how good that will be. Yeah, so 3 on a side and then 1 on each corner. Less a gap into which to place an access box, or I could just leave this thing fully engulfed for the moment. For the basic equivalent of just doing things by hand synthesizer. That'd be 16. Or a whole 320 kilowatts. .6%. which would be 156 seconds-ish for one generic matter cycle. 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. Which isn't the worst. I will need to generate real power. It is one thing to harness the wind. The wind will always be there. There is much wind, many tiny atoms of wind. But there is only one cube. Okay, so put that on contemplation card. Also, the density of the cube means that your movement speed is greatly reduced if the cube is in your pocket. The burden, power of the cube. Putting some things on the belt. In no particular order. Because you don't spam as many buildings in Cube, there's a lot less need for, like, bulk construction material. Okay, I can get my access point by sliding one of the ones on the bottom side over by one. That will create a place into which to hitch the cube. The other Cube Junior. Cube Aspirant. And the cube is currently engaged because there is a batch of raw materials somewhere on the belts. Oh, actually, room for one more. Nice. It is wider than it is tall. Also in that respect, yeah. Alright. Could get this running a little bit hotter. Alright, let's give that a shot. There we go, now that's starting to schmoove a bit. That engages the cube. Though, then I also still want more basic matter scraps in order to get the labs. Start thinking about a power plant. still a more viable cube device, and each of these power turbines can find a home somewhere later in the setup. Right, console. Can I unmap that somewhere in settings? Controls. There we go. I never really need the console for anything in this. And if I do, I can just go create a new button. And let's see, so starting tech. 10 is enough to get arms. Yeah, only a few additional things. Arms will let me get the beginnings of a hands-off setup running for research. So everything also will start moving better once I have a real power plant. So, laboratory. Right, the lab itself is also made of data cards. Well, let me put together some basic fixtures for power generation. Water pump, boiler, couple of turbines. I need rocks to make pipe to ground. Regular pipe is made of generic matter. Yeah, just to begin to tease and get ahead of things. Storage tank. Get another storage box while we're here. And then just like... yeah, another couple hundred matter for the road. Some walking around matter. Alright, then I can leave the cube here. Making another pack of research cards. I'll need to set up on that stone, which is another fine reason to do my initial power setup here. Here's blue rock. The rare earth. Oh, let's see, pipe to ground, pump. Cube is also pretty good about having fluids be involved in more recipes, so pipe management is important throughout. So, water, boiler. which is 1 water in on the side and 2 steam out on the ends. More tube. Take advantage of friendly robots. Kindly helpers. And hook up storage tank right there. Oh, hold on, that was not gonna need another boiler for a while, so water hookup. Water is now schlorped into place. Well, here's your standard steam boiler. Wood is not real fuel. There are many trees. Trees are mere tubes. You need to put the cube in the furnace. Harness the heat cast off by the cube. And alright, so from here we'll want to string out some power, and I'll tear down all of that other stuff and move it up here. For convenience. Proximity to the power lines as they are now stringing out. Okay, so power access for the stone pile. It's good to go. Alright, take up the cube. And I will let this lab cycle through all of those cards right here. Yeah, that won't take long. Very slowly deliver the cube. And let's see, so synthesizers, fabricators. Basic storage boxes. Behold, the cube. And with it, the need for the steam buffer to be sure that the cube fully expends its energy supply. The cube is now tired. The cube can only emit steam. Fortunately, you can just kind of kick the side of the cube, wake it up. The cube is restored. And there you go. Your first hint of the importance of cube handling. Main power requires the cube, though also with the teaser there. The cube has stances. There is only one cube. It has many faces. Also, at some point, there's the ability to use the cube to generate cube residue, which can then be distributed elsewhere. Alright, let's just get some other basic stuff set up. Cube squeezins. Yes, we have long arm, fast arm, and filter arm, though filter arm can't be built yet without computer bits. I can set up something like this for a preliminary rig. Now, this lacks a way to automatically, smartly put the cube back into the machine. For now, cube return is manual. Steam supply is healthy. You get a lot of steam off a single cycle of the cube. That's its fuel value of an entire gigajoule. Note it has vehicle speed stats. Vehicles are also powered by the cube. And I can also help supplement power grid with some backup turbines. Let's see, so it's, yeah, 20, 20. Yeah, so 50 for these. At which point I'll be able to start slightly smartening up the material handling. Also, modules are here. Speed and efficiency only. No productivity module. I should make a second lab, at least. help hasten this along. I can also put this one on the grid. Plenty of steam to go around, for now. Should have gone with conveyors first, because even a single small strip of conveyor belt would give me the initial option for automatic cube cycling. Yeah, it's fine though. Everything will find its place. Everything goes in the square hole. That's I need mining equipment to start dipping into the rare earth. Uncommon earth will not suffice. Legendary earth too fancy. Don't need to go that far. And fortunately, I have enough material kicking around for 2 of those. I can get those to just start accumulating in boxes. Oh, hold on, I already had storage box on the belt. Doubled it up. Or, no, let's not put that there. So, again, the fundamental difference in material requirements. Don't really need as much in the way of bulk drilling equipment for now. There, the earth will begin to accumulate. Let it become accustomed to the cube. Pick this up, extrude a bit more matter. And okay, basic logistics. I can do belts 4 at a time, and I can do tunnels. Alright, research queues also exist these days. But a bunch of improvements to the base game as well as part of the lead up to going to space. So for now, dense furnace, walls, and then copper? Well, conductive wire made of conductive matter, which can be refined from some kind of earth. Yeah, I can just kind of hit these in order. Fluid handling, optics for the lamps I never use, combinatorics. Now, if I could make splitters, I could use the built-in filtration on those. For now, though, Belt. I should make some tunnel just to have it created. Understood. But anyway, so that box is going to be obsoleted. Oh right, I can also, so the belt, you can take an empty slot and then just pick something from the encyclopedia. Currently known materials. The old 1, 2, 3 of belt forms, and then like, just gonna put my arms up here. Electric furnace now known, brick now known. So, dispense cube, immediately reintroduce cube. Or I guess as a fallback. Yeah, that provides a bit of a safety margin. Something like this, just as a crude starter setup, so if I drop the cube in there. The only issue being that this won't buffer the research chips. Unless I, like, fully close the loop. Which I could do with one more adjustment. Do the layout here. There we go. Power is still... The power runs low because I don't have enough turbine. Don't have nearly enough turbine to keep up with the synthesizer when it's on. And labs can pass through to each other, so yeah, there is room to expand this setup a little bit. Yeah. Information is stored in the cube. Okay, the corner is making it go by too quickly for this arm to grab it at low power. There we go. The impending thrill of creating high-performance steam engines that are ultimately bottlenecked by running on a single furnace. Until I have fuel refinement, whenever that happens. Once I can imprint the cube nature onto other substances. Alright, there's the steam supply running out. So just turn that to the cube. Well, alright, it's cycling now. It will be out there when it's time. How much stuff can I do with the assembler right now? All normal assembler stuff, and this assembler is bigger than the basic one. Yeah, it's a 4x4, so there's even room for more elaborate arm handling setups around it. Take your time. Kind, gentle cube. I think I'm gonna deploy a windmill to each drill. That the material keeps on flowing just a little bit. Create a single pipe tunnel to get that on the belt. Well, I can also, yeah, do it the other way. Don't have medium power pole yet, that's what that space is reserved for. Knowledge of splitter means I can put the splitter there. Cube is still processing. And the lab's are still able to kind of calculate. Creating some kind of fancier, compact steam engine setup is in the queue. On the pile. As the cubes permit, it will be done. Slide all of this back a tile in order to make it, in order to create space for a windmill down the middle to drive the arms. For now, I'll just ferry the cube over to the engine. Restart main power. One cube got the buffer up to 6. This should get it to 12. Then a third round of cube will take us nearly up to capacity. That will be power for a while. Furnace is now known. The furnace requires brick. The furnace will produce rare earth. So I need some more generic matter. Then I can adjust the lab setup. $17 should be fine. Stand by, the cube is recalibrating. So, need an electric furnace. Would appreciate a couple more backup turbines. Backing the labs off a step. Yeah, that'll do. There's some asymmetry involved, but whatever. That's fine. It improves access to the cube. Synth up a bit more matter for the road. Resume research. Alright, so electric furnace. More arms, one more storage box. And backup power for that. That will allow production of the high-density furnace. Resume the cycle of the cube. Reasonably brisk. And that's going to work away at its own problems. Building a power plant capable. Okay, so I suppose the thing to consider, since our bottleneck for power right now is one boiler. It's hypothetical peak output if it monopolized the cube. Or I guess it's peak output monopolizing the cube, which would be what brings it up to 13,000 steam per second. At peak. Whereas bringing in 13,000 water per second. Meaning 11 water pumps for input. Less whatever friction that the pipes impose with fluid movement still being a bit weird. I think some intangible things about it have improved over time. So 13,000 steam. When our engines use 30 per second when fully revved. So I could put like 400. Engines. That is definitely at the point where the ability of steam to move through the pipes becomes the limiting factor and not the boiler's ability to generate the steam. I guess an immediate power generation goal becomes just borrow the cube. Having enough engines to run the synthesizer at full speed. 1.2 megawatt each. 41 and 2/3 of an engine. If I create a 42 engine array, that is how much footprint this requires to run that at its nominal cycling speed. Hefty. Well, I've already got 4. Gotta remember what the hotkeys are for different sizes of production order. So there's enough water in to operate that boiler at full power. So excessive for most purposes, which is a fine line to build around. Not making new tubes. Tubes have done their work. Well, I will need newer tubes at an appropriate time. So I could reasonably sprawl this across here. Just going 4 deep on the engines. In rows. Oh, that 42 isn't divisible by 4. Six deep on the rows, I would have 7. Though that would also then be crashing into the cliff. I can make a fancier array. Yeah, if I go 7 deep, side by side, like so, three of these, like, tube up the middle, probably some like active pumps for flow control that will have backup turbines attached to them. Research that? No. Fluid handling is happening right now. For research stuff. Throw the cube back in the science machine, get the labs operating. Cubes will be wiggled. No doubt about that. Looking to fit some of this into the general footprint here, because then there also needs to be some spacing to put in the power lines to bring the energy out of these things as they operate. Fluid pump is 40 kilowatts, so yes, conveniently 2 backup turbines will run a fluid pump at full power. That is sketching together the blueprint here. Cube makes you move slowly enough that you cannot outrun the fast belt. Starting with construction robots means that you can make effective use of blueprints out of the gate. So do like one of those, since this may as well also be the access point for the grid. I think that works out. Range-wise, let's see. Yes, the frequent explosions. The reliably frequent explosions. That is the cube operating at normal parameters. Do not be alarmed. Be unafraid. The cube is kind. Cube is peaceful. Okay, so up to there. Then up to here. And sure, just up to there for the last one. Mirror that setup on the other side. Need to do some rare earth refining to get the pumps. Put the cube back in the research machine for the moment. First batch of bricks should be quite ready. Yeah. Know how to put things in barrels. Who knows? Maybe barrels will be useful at some point. Cube and tube might not be enemies. 520 matter. A lot of matter goes into the furnace. Alright, and the cube can be released back into the world to continue its terrible work. This is my steam power cell, plus a fluid pump here that will just be used to help make sure that it actively draws steam in and keeps it pressed into the system. And I guess in turn that needs to be hooked up to some kind of steam main line. I'll situate a couple of those back along that cliff. Furnace is ready. Big, potent, driven by cube. Also, this cannot take the alternative non-cube fuel. This does not accept cube liquid. It requires solid cube. Okay, for the time being, this can just offload into a storage box. Note as well, so the rare earth furnace here takes 500 ore at a time to put out 250 bars of rare earth, and that's just here in its basic form. Oh, that power line got cut at some point. Reestablish that. There we go. Get that arm moving. Okay, so researching combinators, which will let me make filters and start thinking about programming. Then research the fabricator, the n-dimensional widget, which is our next refined material. Something made of rare earth and requires a second pass of the cube. Another process that depletes the cube. Then a mining upgrade. Immediately after that, the machine that automatically refreshes the cube. The cube wiggler. Which, so just to eyeball it, so it consumes up to 25 megawatts at full speed to spend 2 seconds shaking the cube. So 50 megajoules put in to wiggling the cube in order to activate 1 gig of cube energy. $20 times the power back out. If the cube is being used for power generation. And even if it's not, that's still a demonstration of the power of the cube. Really, fuel burning tasks should be measured in terms of the energy of the fuel. Fuel that could have been in the turbine. Alright, cube. A new adventure awaits. Just throw the first batch in there a little faster. Basic arms becoming a bottleneck because of the large batch sizes. The amount of material handling time involved in preparing the cube for action. Alright, so there's a basic water pump. You can go back in the research machine. Alright, and linear water pump, I think we'll replace offshore pump on the belt. Or really, it can replace boiler. New boilers don't come up very often. Fresh water supplies might. So let's put this. Hold on, missed a spot. There. That on a blueprint. Yeah, steam engine. Stow that in the book. I've done that right. It's been so long since I used it. Okay, it's still there on my belt. Right click to open, left click to build, shift left click to force build. Things about the blueprint interface have also been shifted about a bit. Copy, paste, and they're like quick blueprints, the upgrade planner. Right click to open book. There, item is now stored in book. Might as well put the book on my belt. So, select the test rig. Pack that up. Store power connection to the rest of the facility. Oh, steam levels are down as well. I got to ignite the cube anyway. Yeah, so further research. Cube Wiggler. The ability to make more synthesizers. We were bottlenecked before now. And then research chip 2. Which opens up the next phase of the tech tree once it's done. So, there's the line for vertical space. And I should refresh the cube. So thinking as well that I can just scoop those up. So thinking about that edge. One here. 2. 3. And this lets me sneak the steam in sidewise to keep things running. Keep the cube cycling. Now reactivate the cube. Start to make many pipes. Main steam line can just live there. We'll start to push the synthesizer setup out of the way, but that's also fine. Since that just means it will be time to move the synthesizer to its new home. The ghosts of the many, many engines yet to be built will stand majestic, and this is a nice extendable footprint. Respectable facility. Cube still tied up in a little bit of processing, and what do we got left here? Well, a lot of things, since it'll only give the notifications for what's currently in range. At least get the power lines up. Those tubes on the ground. There is still some sprawl involved in cube work. Sure, let's get the rest of these made. Really install some capacity. Guess I should redesign the buffer as well, because I could make the buffer larger. Need to be sure that it actively has flow control. 8 more. Then also, so how much? Okay, the pumps can move even more material than the boiler can put out, so no concern there. Those will not be the bottleneck at any point. You back in the machine for a moment. Let it wiggle. That first batch of rare earth is done processing. And the furnace is stacked and ready. I moved the boiler back here. Move these tanks. Yeah, good. The material does slosh over into an adjacent tank on destruction. Though, also, the landmass there is a little inconvenient. So... okay, that works for positioning on the one. And the other can be down here. That still allows an access point for like a single arm for an eventual smarter loading system for fuel. Boigler is coming up soon. Alright, but anyway, so steam buffer shifted up a little bit. And over a little bit. There, now there's room to extend the size of the steam buffer by a bit. And combinators are known. I left myself a way to walk up around here. Yes, just barely. Okay. There, buffer, much power storage. That should really get the science machine going again. There, we're now capable of handling the power spike. Oh, rare earth also means I can start making filter arms now. The systems can get just a little more clever. I can create separate lines for handling cube and non-cube material. Means I could make a better lab setup. For the science synthesizer. Hold on, take the cube. When this thing is really moving, it can put out 10 research cards per second. I could go up to quite a few labs. At least a couple of labs. And get them set up in a nice linear fashion. Need to get more data cards set up. And then I will also need to build more of the usual. May as well also move the synthesizer. For the time being. Next iteration of the setup. So, 10 labs in a row. Actually take that up to 12. May as well. Power hookup. Yes, that's how I will do this. Splitter. Priority. Filters. The cube to the left. Be thrown back into the machine. And it won't need that much unloading capacity since it's only making 10 objects at a time. The eventual matter synthesizer will be much more heavily worked. Let's find proof of concept, though, for an unloading mechanism. Commence. Release the data. And really, per the nature of the cube, you kind of don't want to build up to the full throughput of any cube operating process, because the whole point is that this could, like, in one of its better stances, get, like, an hour of work done in a shorter span of time, and then pass the cube to somewhere else while its output is being handled. The most valuable resource is time, and time is measured in cube. Power outage. Install the backups. Just flip that arm for the moment to keep it out of the way. Alright, into the furnace with you. Alright, I'm just starting to plan ahead a little bit. So, the automatic cube wiggler. I believe that's a 2x2 machine, if I'm remembering right. Setup would be have a long arm, pull the cube out. Then the wiggler would be here. I would want the cube to leave that, and then have some kind of switching mechanism that can release the cube back into the network when its work is done. It's like the device is there, an exit point could be over there. Stoke more power generation for the moment. Try to fill the reservoir very thoroughly. Can also now create data cable. Think about setting up preliminary information links. Okay, we'll invent the recovery bay shortly. That will let me just sort this out in actual. Okay, so if I had the bay offset so that it's down here, and the exit arm would be there. And the backup turbines needed to keep that spinning. Just live right there. Plenty of steam in the tank. Whip up more research chips. And okay, so I guess another ratio to think about here, 30 per second. 25,000. So each of these tanks is 830 seconds of uptime on a steam engine. 13 minutes. So, its current 16 tank array. Divided by 42 engines. That is a 5.5 minute buffer of power at peak. The grid is only occasionally at peak. And I could always, there are devices that can be used for voltage regulation and power limiting. Okay, automatic recharge and the recovery bay are now known objects. Need to synth up some widgets. We'll create a second furnace for this purpose, since eventually there will be footprint for that. And then the cube wiggler itself, 10 rare earth, 5 widgets, 250 basic matter. Yeah, eventually for optimization purposes, you'd want to be able to fully cut power to sections of the facility dynamically to remove, like, the idle loads from various devices. Those add up. They add up to time on the cube. So, second furnace. Or wait, no, the widgets are a synthesizer recipe. Well, I have a second furnace for later. Let's leave that on the ground. Or wait, no, that can't be right. Okay, they're made in a synthesizer, which means I need to repurpose. Need to switch the regular synthesizer over. Until I can make more. This is a process that depletes the cube. 50 earth in, 5 devices out. Also, the next tier of science. Now open. Where the green chip is made of. Made of widgets and circuit boards. There's always going to be circuit boards. There's no escaping from circuit boards. So just throw all of those into the laboratory zone for the moment. Give them good homes. Let's see, so next research stuff available. Large power pole. Improved basic matter recipe. That will be important. Do not simply invoke the cube directly. First, you must prepare the sauce. The replication gel. Crusher, which is used to process rock into sand. Sand which can become glass. And robot worker speed. So this is another sign of things to come. Take some of the matter, dissolve it into water, bring it to a boil. Burner inserters don't appear to exist in this. It would be excessive to try to install the cube in a single arm. Okay, so set of these. Are you enough to... Yes, one batch is enough to build a cube reactivator. So the first of those I can just set up here. Once it's done constructing. Yeah, there we go. Got some little 2x2 fella. That will now cycle the cube very slowly because main power is down. Come on. Come on, buddy. You got this. And I will use the cube here just to get another set of rare earth metal processed. Because then in turn that will be another of these to install permanently at the reactor. Even running on fumes, this thing does its job pretty quickly. And the advent of all these new technologies will mean it's time to break down and rebuild this whole facility as well. Put the cube to work building up the steam reservoir. And okay, on that front, single length of red wire. Well, they're made in pairs. Be able to just directly tie this hand to the steam tanks. But I could also run the cable to the back and measure storage capacity from there. I might want to set up another series of pumps to help circulate stuff through the buffer. Well, for now, so. Basic control condition, the first of many. Also, opening up the circuit menu. As always, giving you your teaser of things to come. Quantum bits. Tangible data tubes. Oh, good. Loaders are built into this. Those will be nice. the high-level bulk material movers. Also, Yellow Belt still exists as a concept, so I guess that might show up later. Heat exchangers, right, that's nuclear power stuff. So, liquid. Steam. If steam less than 24,000. Enable the arm that stokes the furnace. Okay, the batch of material is running. It'll take a while. As the synthesizer does. That will cut off the return here. Because I want the cube extracted and re-energized. Well, I could also do the re-energizing manually. Then I will portage all of that over to the furnace. Might end up landfilling over this bit of lake. Or like... I need to extract the boiler out of there. Because like all cube-related materials should be as close together as possible to minimize latency brought on by cube handling. We can install more pipe. That's always an option. Also, I guess having laid this setup out this way, I do have a hook I can use to throttle overall power output if I were to wire up each of these pumps to a control signal of some sort. Have the array conserve energy by constricting steam circulation. Halfway there. If I get the cube over here and let it just really cycle up and fill the buffer, we're going to have a lot of energy to work with. Probably won't have to go out prospecting for a while. The initial mineral reserve will last for quite a bit. We've got 500,000 rare earth sitting around. Alright, I guess I can really confirm without hesitation that now the thing to do is replication formulae. Sentience abstraction. Immerse the cube. Immerse specifically a sleeping cube in gel. Extract its dreams. And and then bottle those dreams. Create intelligent calcium. Well, no, you make the intelligent calcium first and then infuse it with the thinking liquids. Just look around you. So, matter replication. Widget replication. Yeah, that'll let me create the more powerful synthesizer loadouts. But then just start doing utility stuff in order. That is the research queue. Rare earth refinement. Let's take raw rare earths, shake them around a little bit to separate some of the minerals. Oh, also the even bigger batch of rare earth smelting. Do it 1,000 at a time. Also wood production. Many things are waiting for once I actually have those production chains set up. For now, though, basic power cycle and maybe some sort of main cube handling strip. The beginnings of a cube bus. Some sort of cubus. Yeah, because I want to be able to set things up so that there's a nice narrow contact surface between, say, a cube handling conveyor belt and whatever cube machine is being hooked up to interface with it. Almost there. That way many cubes can be properly situated. Ah, right, the depleted one wound up just directly in my inventory. Well, reactivate it. So it can generate the matter it needs for the Wiggler. Yeah, fortunately, fabricators are just made of basic stuff. To start making more synthesizers, I will need more widgets. But for now, I can take this, drop it in there, and power will now ramp up on its own, unsupervised. Right? Cube Wiggler? Put the dormant cube in the device. Come on, ARM, you can do it. ARM? ARM, you've got this. Believe. ARM. Put a power pole in here. I think the problem here was that the wind turbine, all of its capacity was being directed into the Wiggler. So this thing was providing like 0.02% satisfaction, leaving the arm paralyzed. Leaving it unable to fill its internal battery enough to perform a single flip. But now it has 2 turbines covering its vicinity. So that should be good enough to cold start the reactor, as long as the cube is delivered. Okay, more things I can do with the scraps of data cable that I've created here. Attach that conveyor belt. No, not attach that conveyor belt. I would want the next segment. So that I can have this belt pointing away. Yeah, hold on. So if I make more wire, then do this. No, I can't wire up a tunnel section? Weird. Okay, so the adjustment to make would be to unload the cube wiggler on this side and then put a control mechanism in here that will allow the cube to leave the power cycle. Yeah, the inserter is already wired. Just good to have more than one point of control. Because consider in a low power situation, the arm won't have the reflexes necessary to grab a cube that is passing by. A cube that it would love to take and put into action. Actually, wait, the lanes would work out right to have this go straight through, because that would be on the outer lane and get caught on the tunnel. Alright, let me just route this system through a power line so I can consult its contents at any time. That's also important. I can also run that data wire all the way down the power poles and just have Steam information available. I don't think this has corner arms built into it by nature. Could always add the arbitrary inserter mod at some point to let you customized everywhere within reach. For now, Steam steadily sloshing its way to the back. Next, now create this scenario where steam levels are high, and the cube is just sitting in there not quite being fully engaged. Or is a lack of water input slowing you down? Do I need to more actively shove water into this from many sources? Okay, for now the cube has popped back out. Yeah, so I think the plan here becomes to do this. Okay, and then like either a splitter or... No, wait, I've got it. 2 unloading arms. Power switches are also available now. Create some combinators. Start thinking of using them. But yeah, so the intent here, if power is still low, this arm will be active. And this arm will be the opposite of this arm. Yeah, if I can just set up an inverter, whichever of these does that for me. Decider. Okay, this just checks a condition and outputs a signal. Arithmetic? Can you do? Yes. Yes, you do logic operations. Multiply, divide, add, subtract, divide. Greater, less than. And or XOR. I could also do it just by directly wiring them together and giving them the appropriate signals, but feeling fancy. At some point, it will be time to use the combinators for complicated cube handling. How do you build a knot? Alright, I can also do operations on signal. Okay, I can just put the steam level signal through this to simplify it. That's another way I can do this. I just red wire in. Create green wire. It would be fun to put the logic in here, but this can be a simple matter of just steam greater than 24,000. And then just have these listen for the generic red signal. If red is exactly 1, and drop the cube in here just to let it operate. And then I can use a tunnel to create an input mechanism that will receive the cube unconditionally. Still got to think about this flow issue. Why is this burning so slowly? Or is that consistent with it only being able to do 500 megawatts of fuel? I built around a hypothetical capacity that does not exist. Yet. Perhaps the Pyro Cube will have such power. Also, if I'm doing the deciding over here... then the cube handling might be able to change its reasoning a bit. Steam tanks aren't quite full. Pump seems to be full, but the pump alleges that it can move things much faster. Maybe that's a speed for unloading trains, though. Plenty about fluid handling that is still strange. Well, either way. Cube completes its cycle. Cube goes in the wiggler. Cube is sent back to the turbine. Connected to network 4. Network 4, which is outputting 24,000. Okay. It's just passing through the numeric value of the steam on the red output. Fair enough. I'll just use that way. So, point is the battery is charged. So do another batch of rare earth. Brew up some more dimensional widgets. That will put me in a position to get started on making a real production setup. Something suitable for replication. Okay, so what kind of costs are we talking about right now? 60, 120, 120, and so on. So costs are becoming more real. $20 of these for a synthesizer. Okay, take the research aside for the moment. I want to set up a device to run these. Well, I can afford a second synthesizer now. That's nice. Might be about time to start making use of fabricators. Okay, roadmap is forming. Should have a fabricator chain for a pilot setup of comprehension cards, which is the assembly of the card, chip, and wire. 3 steps. And that will in turn involve more replication. Okay, a plan is brewing here. Nothing is currently loaded into this. Tear it down. Similarly, let's just cut off the input to the furnace for the moment. Repack that into a box. I'll be able to run the material up momentarily. And plenty of battery time. We're hardly consuming any power right now, so... like to double dip on the use of this recovery bay. synthesizer to one side, ultra-dense furnace to the other. So that, by its nature, filters what goes into it. Over here, dimensional things. Over here, rare earth smelting. Is long arm the appropriate length for this task? I think so. No, it is one short. The tragedy of the arms. No, I will have to unpack material and then scoot it around, which also means I will have to use filter arms so they don't grab the cube. Unless I reworked this to have these closer together, but then I think I would lose the simplicity of the loading. Plan is forming. And so these need to filter for metal. And then I want a bunch of loading capacity over here. Which we'll collect from down here for simplicity's sake. There. Now a job for the splitter and its ability to divide things 50-50. Maybe. The other thing would be to actively, like, throttle and control which device receives custody of the cube at a given time with a stronger system. This is the preliminary system. Where wire. First of all, needs to go over there to run the furnace. And use the infinite throughput provided by pants. Simply pick up the ore and deliver it to the furnace. Get in there. Never underestimate the van full of tape. Is built for exactly this job. Yep, good. The cube has been passed. So now more filter arms to unload the widgets. Alright, and naturally the cube is seized because this is not a 1-to-1 ratio of production. So I need a more elaborate control mechanism to actually allocate those smartly. Jam more of that ore into where it belongs. Alright, so for now, we have a machine that dispenses the part. Sometimes. Machine that is easily unbalanced. Now let's do this another way then. No need for the splitter. Prioritize going to the right. Generate a bit more basic matter. Control wire might come up more often than a lot of things. Yeah, mining drills don't matter. Fabricators also might not matter. Not enough to be on the tool belt. Then I can use this box to control this arm. Say to only request the cube when your supply is low. When your output is low. Though really with the way this is set up, that condition I should just clear. And instead the thing to do is install belt readers. Hook them to that arm. And I would use a stronger storage unit to measure off of for the buffer. This should work well enough on its own. Just if there is no metal on the belt, grab the cube. Okay, but that, okay, and then turn that back on because that says that if the box is full, this will relinquish ownership of the cube. That might work out. Really low on metal signal should also be used to govern that in the current configuration. For the moment, that's all moving itself forward. And the metal is also what is needed. Hold on, let me change how this belt is set up. That I can then pass that metal out the end of the setup. Some of it directly into my pockets. Then I need to make some fabricators in order to crowbar them into this. So yes, metal into wire. Okay, the fabricator was still assembling. And then I need somewhere for basic matter to enter the equation temporarily. Steam levels could use a topping off. So, second fabricator makes chips. Need more time with the cube. Fortunately, it's back in action. Alright, so there will always be more need of the cube. wire just gets passed through, and more metal gets applied. Get some basic power pulls. Then this might be the job for a long arm. Or no, next fabricator will go over there. Which doing that also cut the data cable. Nope. Data cable adapted. Or I ran it around there anyway in the first place. So that is still fine. Did have another fabricator ready. Now this is the one that will assemble the science cards? Yes. Together, all of this is what was necessary to make green science equivalent at just a basic level. And it still also needs the cube on the other side to create the tier 1 science boxes. Get another built tunnel to make our spaghetti connection here. Tunnel or two, which that's another benefit of having it start at red belt. The tunnels can go much further without assistance. There. One green science. Alright, get the cube back in the furnace. Get that earth metal moving. Research level 2. Now at all barely possible. And do I have enough scrap material on hand? Not particularly. But in anticipation of it, I can just kind of drop the level 1 cards over there. So I have a tunnel through there. And 1 arm. Right, come here, a moment. Cube. Just a touch of matter extrusion. Something to get through the working day. There we go. Tiny preliminary Science 2 assembly. And yeah, in turn, a fine introduction to this is the sort of stuff that Cube mod is about. That in order to increase the output of this machine now, so now the bottleneck has shifted to the actual card assembler. I could have more of these. I could set up more of a card making machine. But ultimately, everything will fall back down to the will of the cube. And in turn, the puzzle of the box. I need more of a buffer here in order to be able to fully unpack the furnace in the first place. Powerful. For the moment, I could grab more of this metal for personal use. Yeah, I should unravel how to make a better Science 2 assembler. So, supposing all the material inputs are there, let's look at the immediate production ratios. 12 seconds of work for 6 of these and 1 of these. When the throughput on making these is a lot if the power is available. Another way of thinking of it, these are made in batches of 5, these are made in batches of just the 1. So right away at a glance, we need more chip assemblers. Might also want to run a matter synthesizer on the floor. I can grab a pile of these and use them to build more infrastructure. Start to stitch things together into a larger cube-based ecosystem. Mechanism. Cube network. Does this power pole need to be here anymore? Yes, but not exactly there. Free that up nicely. So, draw an arbitrary line in the sand. Here is the cube return line, whose job is to send the cube to the furnace. And I can extend that quite a ways. I can make that wide enough to cover all current factory footprint. I could develop some manner of mechanism to, during an alarm, seize the cube and toss it onto the return line. So in turn, the cube output line should be there, to allow for a long arm to make the switch and have room for handling apparatus. So point you down there. So when the cube is done being cycled through the furnace, it arrives here. I can start rearranging things accordingly for that. Create kind of a... Yes, there'll be an operational surface here for stuff the cube does. Also a, like, low priority return track for if the cube is just kind of shuffling, rather than being thrown back in a panic. Let the cube continue to do more work while I sort this out. Alright, and so immediate real estate available. Plenty of room here. Start sketching on. I will go past the rare earth minerals, at least. Do not like building on top of resources until they have been properly cleaned out and processed. So the new setup will start here. I can start to orchestrate a few basic devices. Starting with a hands-off basic matter replicator. Alright, so in turn, tear down this. Cover the cube wiggler. Cut off the flow of material to the furnace for the moment. Cover all of this track. Now, the basic matter setup will be very temporary because it will soon be time to start fermenting the matter to create Repligel. New setup starts there. And the return line should exist there. Let's retrieve all of this equipment. Alright, so I have a design pattern in mind. matter. Step 1 is to have an arm. May as well normalize using filter arms to keep everything nice and explicit and prevent unwanted material from entering parts of the system they aren't supposed to be. So, a cube retrieval arm that will be under a control circuit later. I'll give it a wire pull there for hookup. Its job is to take the cube off of the line and put it into a little local cycler. That would make it even tighter, but then reflexes start to get involved on the part of the control arms. So, just to be explicit, you also wish to use the cube. This will be our basic matter synthesizer. Temporary setup. The bots are working very hard. Okay, so. Basic matter. The lab complex will have to move again. And I guess also just to get the party started, let us operate the matter synthesizer. I have room in my inventory for the moment. I can sort of pack and carry things. So, cube goes in, cube goes out. And a second control arm here. So both of these will be governed by the same signal. Take the green wire and hook them up. So this will be pretty straightforward latch of this arm will grab the cube if the matter inventory, which I will unload and store and measure in some way over here, is too low. And once the matter inventory has recovered to an acceptable level, this one will activate and throw the cube. Or, in the event of an emergency, this arm will activate and pull the cube further. Though this arm might not be fast enough to do that. So to facilitate that, I might have to extrude further. Yes, there's your emergency return arm that would grab the cube and send it back to the furnace. I can probably build actual memory cells at this point. So, down here, where with each cube-related module, should prefer to make it tall. Because access to the cube handling line is an important resource. Grab all this nice generic matter out of the machine. Okay, actually for power line access, let's do 6 boxes here. 3 and 3. And throw that in on the side. Heads up that you can see visibly the 4 access points where fluid hookups will occur when you start switching over to the fluid handling recipes. So, green wire across this whole arrangement. And back to the front. So if basic matter less than 500, and if basic matter greater than 1,000, in turn, I could start running my Steam data cable down the back. Also just drop the cube over there. These arms that only do basic matter. There we go. And then I, of course, can then unload these onto belts and bring them together and merge them and send them to whatever ends may be. For now, machine construction. This is all going to be torn up and rearranged at some point. So, you red wire to here. Start threading the red wire back down the power plant. To the monitor for the steam level. So that is visible all the way out here. Now you are if steam less than 5,000, panic and throw the cube. Oh, the steam signal, I haven't finished hooking it up all the way down there. Alright, so steam is there. And you, yes, good. Test of the cube retrieval system. Cube's now satisfied. Hold on. Wait, are these not comparators? Is that what these means then? Those are just pass-throughs? Alright, never mind. The combinator being here was a mistake. A pleasant mistake, but one to rip out and replace, so. Just power these directly with the mineral water. Gelatinous tar. Essence of oil. Elbow grease. Many powerful liquids are waiting. So if steam less than 24,000. Cycle the cube. Steam greater than or equal to 24,000. Eject the cube. Those might be shifts. I should look up the full combinator text. Okay, but the ejector... Okay, this... So what must have happened here... Let me just grab the cube. And pass it by again. So the buffer is loaded now. So this is going to decline to pick up the cube in the first place. Because there's plenty of regular matter sitting in the stocks ready to go. So, at the moment, let's just put it in there anyway. And let it stock up even more regular matter. And just pass that through onto a conveyor line that I could then use for fabrication. And right, capstone for this of all of these cube handling arms should be on wind power. Just in case. Just install some wind capacity in the immediate vicinity of the device. Could potentially slide the whole thing over one step so that it would fit. Well, it wouldn't quite fit entirely into the footprint. This can be part of an alleyway, though, that would exist as a tolerance between mechanisms. Yeah, that's looking good. So, basic matter. Installed. And that will allow room for things like putting this ore in. Just kinda sidewise. And the possibility of the low priority cube return. It's up there. For cubes that are simply remaining in the industrial cycle and not being ejected. Which for the moment is you. So, 2 tiles. Next, synthesizer. Don't need new research cards yet, but I will soon. May as well reserve a space for that here. Have the parts to build more. So this would operate under similar logic to this. Just with the settings changed. So copy this part of the apparatus. Oh, and the copy even retains the data cable. Convenient. Though some of those will have to be refactored. This works though. The red line passing through for the steam information. Then a separate green line governing how this machine is put together. So, similar setup, but with contemplation cards. Also, I don't need to buffer. I probably don't need to buffer nearly as many of these. Green wire will only travel vertically within a column. Alright, there we go, data storage, and I can also read the inventory just at these power poles here, which is a kind of convenience. And I guess as a backup, for now, I will just loop the open end back to the furnace. So, 2 synthesizers so far. Next is furnace. For metal processing. Does need to be loaded. Then unloaded. And then the receiving unit has to be modified with an output where the cube is recharged before passing it back into the system. Which there is room for in the setup. The apparatus is forming. guess I could throw a second drill onto this. Make sure we're properly loading that belt. And of course, after I have this assembled, there will be room to create some manner of supply mall for basic equipment. Green signal to provide rare earth data. Oh, that arm doesn't exist yet. I need to spin up a few more. Now, would the long arm have the reflexes necessary to grab this from that during an emergency? That's my thought process here, because if I unload it short range, it will go around and the furnace will try to grab it again, which would require me to put another lockout on control of the furnace arm. This might be quick enough to handle things on its own, though. Make sure the cube wiggler has emergency power for itself. And with a quick stretch of tunnel. There, now that arm has power as well. Now they both do. New metal furnace operational. And since these are made in batches of 500, definitely use some larger tolerances on the switch for now. so 450 metal, 500 cards, 2,000 basic matter. Three basic material supplies online. Have another synthesizer. Make another recovery bay. Then I can install dimensional widgets right there. Split the metal production and pass some of it back over to the other machine. Yeah, that's waiting on more ore arriving, which will take time. It's got that glow. Also a fun little thing that is also part of the base game now. There's support to have more than one cosmetic appearance for the same material, just to give it a bit of visible variety on the belt. So like our miscellaneous fancy metal ingots here. They're just all various colors in a heap. Supposed to be another power pole there for communication. Pass along the steam signal. And these are listening for you. 50 and 100. In a future fancier generation of this setup, I could create some kind of control panel of combinators. Use those as the knobs that I adjust. Once I decide on ratios that I want, I could have a thing that takes an input signal, generates all the appropriate child signal numbers, passes them around. This lets me check the steam level from anywhere on the production line. Steam is there. Steam level, fine. Could set up my conveyor belt maker pretty soon. So I am attached to getting replication gel as a priority to then make another generation of this machine. I got more things to hook up here. And right, update the settings on the arms. Similarly, I could start getting into the habit of wiring filter arms to things to control what they are set for. Alright, Cube, I'm just gonna toss you over there. Make the engine go. And alright, I could start tossing some of this carry-around material into the warehouse. For everywhere that the appropriate substances are now being made and stored. I'm gonna use wood for anything for a while. But I'm going to routinely accumulate wood. I can just create a wood drop-off here. We'll gain some wood from land clearing. Don't even have any recipes that consume wood yet. I think for the moment, those 4 devices are every cube-based production process at our current level that are now vaguely wired up to share access to the cube. Now, hold on, gotta bring this inventory signal back up. There we go. Yeah, the usual cable positioning was cut off by having the loading bay here. Because this will only be made more complicated by the addition of liquid. I will need possibly more buffer room on the sides of each column. Alright, so with that done, now in the workspace here, let's try to get the labs resituated. And make a decent amount of green card. Holding 3 fabricators, bring that up to 4, and I can now produce mass of mass. Replication in low light conditions. Let's think about my ratios again. $20 seconds for each card assembler, so those work very slow. I want a couple of those at the end of the setup. I can just go a ways down here to give myself room to plan and then condense the whole operation later. Only 2 materials in at this step. Oh, actually, let me rotate that. Because the setup can be receive dimensional widgets. From the one side. And then I can assemble the other stuff and pipe it around there. Just start siphoning down the basic matter. Really breathe it in. So to get things started in their basic form, fabricators can go on the belt. Instead of offshore pumps. These guys need to receive basic matter. There's the only slightly tricky part. I also need to bring over a third material. Like, otherwise, they take metal, and they take wire, which is made of metal. So I can longhand that over to them. Wire, which is also made 4 at a time. So one wire machine can operate more than one of these. So I might want to facilitate that with belts. Or otherwise, for a pilot machine, not worry too much about it. This is just about getting any capacity online, and having any capacity online will be, like, satisfactory. Yeah, just go ahead and raid the inventory. So... bring over a line of basic matter. And the basic research will want to slip under there. Cube screams on in triumph. Steam levels are adequate. Kind of a wasteful power setup, but nothing wrong with that. Material can always get migrated around once a better version of the setup is brought into action. Alright, held up by basic matter replication. Just drop that over there. Alright, so we got a reason to want to have more throughput on the rare earth mine. And maybe some kind of power switch wired up to detect when things backfill. Yeah, these do have a minimum consumption of 10% of their active power. That would add up if I added a lot of them. A simple belt scan should do for that, just if there are like 5 ore on a square. Four would probably be enough. To just cut power. Which, if the line were still moving, would in turn create gaps that would reactivate the power and tell the drills to keep jumbling along. Now, the parts to make the labs again are in place. Let's just make basic laboratory column again. For 2 flavors. Yeah, the belt maker will be a worthwhile investment soon. Power up the labs. Regain any research, with the next bottleneck being adding more fabricator over here, which I can also queue up. That'll be like pass the rare metal down here, do another pair of chip makers. Works out nicely. And there's more that I could do to try and scale that. For the time being, that's not much of a concern. Cube status, where are you? Back at the power plant. Knowledge replication gel arrives just in time. Yeah, there we go. It doesn't take long to top off the steam vats. Though, circulation problems in the steam vats are certainly a thing. Could create some more elaborate setup for moving things between those as modules. Just to kind of prototype it over here, so you have one tank, next layer of tank, pump between them, backup wind turbine nestled into the gap there, and then symmetrically you have a second of those pointed the other direction. And then have a control signal saying whether to push things upstream or downstream. Or I could also impose a gap and then have them in series instead of in parallel. That would make sure that they all get filled. Because that's a contributor to the issue, that all the steam enters here and exits over here on the same corner. Or I could just have the output draw from the other end and scooch its way back to here. It's largely working out, though. Really not much concern, and the drills have caught up with the furnace for now. It can move a lot of metal in one batch. It will only get stronger. But yeah, also all this is subject to overhaul immediately next session. There, verbally making this the wind down. This is an entirely acceptable beginning to a cube-based operation. Fundamental cube handling machinery has been implemented. But, yeah, the fact that we now have gel-based synthesis. Still need to create. The replication gel is brewed in a density furnace. So that's another of those that needs to be installed, say, over here. Conceptually, the whole line could be torn down and moved about at any time. But yeah, a gel system which requires bringing over steam and being able to dispose of excess water. Steam and water both go into the process. And there is an overall loss of material, but control mechanisms will be needed to prevent the steam line from jamming, and to effectively recycle the water, and so forth. Yeah, so steam plus basic matter creates gel. And then gel and additional steam creates batches of 1,000 standard matter at a time. Tenfold increase in replication. It's good stuff. Also create the looming need to eventually get the stack arm up and running. Throw another thing in the research queue since we have so much work. Alright, there's also a gel-based version of the basic research card to make those in packs of 100. And about to finish here, 50 packs of widgets by using the gel. Which also, hold on, so these are 5 for 50. So 10 metal each. Whereas the gel-based process is 50 for 200. 4 metal each. More throughput and less cost. Just a little bit of gel. Elementary use of the sauce. Swoon.